Hey guys, this is your fiery friend the Infernoman here, and if you're into games, you're right where you need to be. But before we get into it, if you like the content that I put out there, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit me up with a like, or even better, subscribe to me. It really shows that people do care about my content. Now, if you have questions, comments, stuff you'd like to see played or discussed, you can @me on Twitter or chat directly with me as I stream 2 to 3 times a week on Twitch. A visual link for those are up on the screen right now, and I will have direct links in the details below. And for today's deck tech, we are covering Energy Food. You probably have never heard of this deck before. Basically, this is a green ramp deck that's trying to get you to either Nissa or Feasting Troll King. As you can kind of tell, the sub-theme is utilizing not just food tokens, but also energy. And just small note, I actually did play a version of this that I kind of created, which had a much more practical option for the end game, but we will discuss that, of course, in the upgrade section a little bit later. The point I'm trying to make is, yes, I did come up with this when I was actually eating something, and no, it was not Wendy's. Actually, that was In-N-Out, but that kind of gives you an idea of where I live. Anyways, let's actually discuss how we do this. If you are unfamiliar with how I do these videos, usually we will cover first the creatures in the deck, then we will cover the non-creature spells, then we will cover the land base if applicable, we will talk about the sideboard, and then of course we will have a sparring match with Sparky to show you basically how the deck is trying to run, and if you do like this deck, a way to upgrade it into something a little bit more competitive. But with that, let's chomp on in. To begin, we have 19 creatures in the deck. The first ones, Land of War Elves, Paradise Druid, and Servant of the Conduit, mostly just serve the purpose of just providing our ramp. Longtusk Cub is going to be where the payoff comes into play. So if you're not using the energy from Servant of the Conduit, you can put it onto the Longtusk Cub. Longtusk Cub is a great standalone creature because it can pump itself up just by hitting our opponent for damage. Of course, the final real game plan is to get to Feasting Troll King. Feasting Troll King, as you can see right here, is a beefy creature for 6 mana, a 7/6 vigilance and trample. When it enters the battlefield, you get to create 3 food tokens. You can sacrifice 3 food tokens to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield. So basically, you want to try to use some of your mana dorks to either get to Feasting Troll King as early as possible and start smashing your opponent's face, or if the Feasting Troll King just can't come online, you can utilize the Longtusk Cub to start smashing your opponent, and it is a little bit slower, but it will become a bigger threat if your opponent does not stop it. But that is basically it for the creatures. Nothing too fancy here. We're literally just trying to ramp to plan A of the deck. As you can see, Longtusk Cub is plan B, but when we go over to the non-creature spells, you'll see that there's a plan C and even a plan D. As far as your non-creature spells are concerned, you also have 19 of these cards. Each of these cards also serve the same purpose similar to the Mana Dorks. Attune with Ether helps you dig out your lands. Same with Cultivate and Migration's Path. Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot is doing a little bit of utility for us. It helps us gain life so we can stabilize against some of our more aggressive opponents, and also it gives us energy. That energy can be utilized on either the Longtusk Cub or to use the Servant of the Conduit's ability to tap for mana. Witch's Oven looks a little funky here, but again, we do have another sub-theme of using food. So with a Feasting Troll King, if we're having trouble summoning it, or we do need extra food tokens to bring it back from the graveyard, we can sometimes sacrifice some of our weaker creatures, some of our mana dorks in the mid or late game, to then make food tokens, which we can then utilize to bring back the Feasting Troll King. Having said that, even if we can't go with that plan, creating extra food to gain us life can also help us stabilize, along with cracking the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knots for its second ability. As I mentioned earlier, we have a plan C to the deck. Plan C is utilizing Nissa to ramp and then start tapping our forests to make them either into creatures or utilizing them to cast out our other bigger spells. But there you go. Now, we're actually going to cover the land base, and you will see where plan D of the deck is. As far as our mana base, it is 22 lands total. It may actually seem a little bit low considering the converted mana cost of the remainder of our deck, but trust me, this is just enough. 17 forests is really all you need. 3 gingerbread cabins, which also counts as a forest, but we ideally want to get it out as the 4th land. If we do, we get a free food token, which synergizes with the Feasting Troll King plan. 2 copies of Crawling Barrens because we are a budget deck, but however, if you can afford a bigger budget, then go for a full playset by replacing 2 of the regular forests. Crawling Barrens is basically plan D to the deck, and what I mean by that is, if you fail to get Nissa going, if you fail to utilize your Feasting Troll King, if Longtusk Cub just gets blown up, Crawling Barrens here is our last resort to get a win. Alright, let's go over now the sideboard. Now, as far as your sideboard plan is concerned, thankfully, again, we are utilizing a simple mana base, so this shouldn't be too hard to kind of figure out what we need. Chainweb Arachnir is actually a pretty good card because, as you notice, the biggest weakness of the deck is if we get board wiped, we don't really have anything to bring back aside from the Feasting Troll King. However, the Chainweb can bring itself back by exiling cards utilizing the escape ability. Also, it is great to snipe out some of those pesky flyers that green decks have a hard time dealing with. Soul Guide Lantern, of course, is your catch-all budget plan for Graveyard Hate. 2 copies of Blanchwood Armor. This is actually a card that some people really underestimate and tend to forget. Since we're running all forests in the deck, this is going to make one of our creatures very big very quickly if our opponent doesn't have a way to deal with it. A full playset of Broken Wings to get rid of artifacts, enchantments, and also kind of provides a little extra backup with the Chain Web if we need to get rid of flyers. And finally, 2 copies of Carnage Tyrant. This is one of our things we could swap out, possibly our Feasting Troll Kings or even the Long Tusk Cubs if we just need something to avoid a lot of the spot removal out there. All right, guys, but I don't know about you, but I am ready to sink my teeth into a match with Sparky. Oh, you guys still love these jokes. Okay, everybody, here we go once again. We are playing against Sparky with our energizing food deck. So I don't know about you guys, but are you ready to get energized? Yes! Yes. I know, I'm pumped for this. It's probably because I just ate actually before recording. So let's go see if we can make this work, guys. All right, so as you saw right here, when we kept our opening hand, it's because we had our ramp, we have Cultivate, and we actually have the Feasting Troll King. So I think we can get there pretty quickly with this. Let's make this work. Cultivates. Ideally, you want to try to have in your opening hand both some ramp, a mana dork, one of your win cons, and at least some lands, at least as a ideal. All right, Paradise Druid, no attacks. So as you can see right here with Paradise Druid, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have enough to get a Feasting Troll King out, which is great. Also, don't forget, guys, Feasting Troll King is not legendary, so you can actually put multiples out there. No blocks. Awesome. Forest. All right, let's just do it. Feasting Troll King. Roar! So angry. He does look pretty angry. Maybe he's hangry. You guys have ever been hangry before? Not a pretty sight. Okay. Sparky's trying to put up a little bit of a defense, but that's okay. You're going to see why that's not something I worry about. Okay, Feasting Troll King going for the attack. Are they going to do a massive block? They do. Again, the reason why you can be aggressive with this is Feasting Troll King is pretty self-sufficient. So we're going to sack our foods. We just bring it back. And a second Feasting Troll King now coming out. All right, let's pass the turn. We have some migration paths here, but as you can kind of see, we're a little bit low on action. So I think we should cycle the migration path. Okay, Long Tusk Cub. This is member plan B to the deck, but we don't need it right now. We have 2 Feasting Troll Kings, which are going to be very easy to manage against Sparky right now. On the attack, no blocks. Okay, Sparky. Well, put out the Long Tusk Cub. No fear. We can still cycle the migrations path if we really need to, but at this point, we've controlled the match. We definitely have control of the match. All right, Sparky, what do you want to take out? Okay. They fight the Feasting Troll King. For reasons. All right, cycling the migration path. Maybe we'll get a better draw. No, it's just a forest. That's fine. Oh, here we go. So again, if you're Long Tusk Cub, if you're Feasting Troll King, and if we had Nissa, could not get you there. You have Crawling Barrens here, which would have been our final backup plan. Backup to the backup to the backup to the backup plan. But obviously, as you can see, that's basically it for you guys. That's Feasting Troll King gets in. We still have plenty of food, so nothing Sparky could do. But there you go, guys. That is energy food for you in a nutshell. All right. Okay, let's show you more practical upgrades to the deck if you really like this style of play. Now, as far as upgrades to the deck, you actually have quite a few options in green, but here's basically what I would recommend based on the theme of the deck so far. First off, Allosaur Shepherd would be great in the sideboard as it prevents all of your cards from getting countered. One of the biggest problems with this deck is it also folds to counterspell heavy decks, so this would give you massive protection. Also, take note of the fact that all of our mana dorks are elves, so the bonus here of its ability where you can pay 6 and then make every elf creature you have base power and toughness of 5/5 and become dinosaur is just also a nice little synergistic bonus. If you care about graveyard hate a little bit more, Scavenging Goose is also good because it also gives you something that you can dump all of your extra mana into to pump it up and not only get rid of creature cards in the graveyard, but also make your Scavenging Goose a bigger threat. You might want to consider getting rid of the Long Tusk Cup for this, but this is also personal preference. Gilded Goose, if you really want to stray away from the energy theme, can also replace one of your mana dorks because this also would support more of the food option and give you better support for the Feasting Troll King. If you want to upgrade your mana base, basically just add in some Fable Passage just so that way you can thin your deck out a little better. And also get those extra copies of Crawling Barrens like I mentioned earlier. For utilities, consider the Great Henge as not only a way to help you keep your life total high, but also help you with the ramp. Remember again, if you're going to be casting a Feasting Troll King, Great Henge will come out for an extremely cheap price. Sorcerer Spyglass and Heroic Intervention will be your utility cards you want to keep in the sideboard. Mainly this is just to deal with Planeswalkers. And for Heroic Intervention, it just prevents you from getting destroyed by board wipes. As far as extra creatures in the deck, Nightpack Ambusher is great to help you go wide without having to spend any additional mana. Not to mention also, the Wolf sub-theme is actually going to be good with Wicked Wolf, which is also going to be self-sufficient, and you might want to consider getting rid of Long Tusk Cub for the Wolf. I would definitely recommend utilizing these cards together if you do consider them, mainly because Nightpack Ambusher does have a Lord effect, pumping up not only its own wolves, but also Wicked Wolf. And Wicked Wolf has a food sub-ability to it, which also goes off of the Gilded Goose and the Feasting Troll King's ability. As far as bigger creatures are concerned, if not in the main deck, the sideboard, to replace possibly the Carnage Tyrant, if for some reason you're not a fan of that, Vorinclex is amazing because of the fact that it gives you a bonus to counters. One of the other sweet things about Vorinclex also is it synergizes with everything the game plan is trying to do. It will give you additional counters for not just the +1/+1 counters on your other creatures, but also the energy you get. So you are going to be getting a ton of resources if you manage to get this card out. Definitely consider this as an upgrade. As far as the other card, Elder Gargoth, this is going to be a personal preference. If you do prefer and fear getting hit with spot removal, then keep the Carnage Tyrant. Otherwise, Elder Gargoth just has better utility in the sense that you can either draw a card, create another beast creature token, or gain life depending on whether it attacks or blocks. And finally, and this is something I'm a little bit more of a about, if you really want to go full on competitive with this deck and you really like it, then you might even consider getting rid of Feasting Troll King and just go with Ugin. Ugin, of course, just is really just a great card. If you're doing all ramp and all you care about is just trying to get a better, more efficient win, then yes, pick Ugin. Personally, I prefer to stick with flavor myself, so this is why I only put this in the consider it if you really care about actually winning versus just having fun. But otherwise, you do have a lot of options for upgrades. There are still some cards even I didn't mention, but mostly this is because I wanted to keep the theme of the deck being energy and food as much as possible. And there you have it, everybody. That is energy food for you. So tell me, what do you think? Are you a fan of highly synergistic game plans? Are you a fan of the food mechanic? Are you a fan of green ramp decks? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you guys. But aside from that, thanks again for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if I helped you out, you learned something, or at least I entertained you. And remember that no matter what you do play or eat in the game of life, always be sure to burn bright. Later, I need to get myself some cookies.